Hey guys, it's Jamie, bringing you another episode of Recovery Inspired Hope. Make sure you subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube. Today we have a very special guest, all the way from 813 area code in Florida, the creator of DOC TV 813. And you are also a person in long-term recovery and an advocate for recovery and for transformation of people's lives.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name's Josh. My YouTube's DOC TV 813. My whole life I was in addiction, basically, and it led to some dark places, down some dark roads. And, finally I got a sponsor and started working the program, and got in recovery and started living recovery. And so I was on YouTube and I saw a bunch of people making channels on what their experiences was like in prison. And what recovery teaches us is to give back what was so freely given to us. So my goal is to help the youth that are still down those dark roads, and also helping people in recovery. That's just what I was taught, and that's what worked for me. So that's what I'm going to keep continuing to do.
And so your pathway was 12 step.
Right. 12 steps. Yep. Right out of the big book.
Awesome.
Or NA. Awesome. I do NA. So some people, either one works. It's all 12 steps. So.
Right. Cool. And you have, I saw one of your episodes actually where you were talking about one of the reasons you're so passionate is because somebody very close to you had passed away.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that I know have passed away. That episode was my best friend growing up. And that's when the pill epidemic started in Florida. And we were going to doctors selling pills. And this was when Vicodin were big. The Oxycontin really hadn't hit yet. And, we finally got Oxycontin prescribed to us because so many people wanted it, because it was the best at that time. And he took some, and my other friend took some one night at a hotel party. And the next morning, neither one of them woke up. I was just fortunate enough to not be the one taking those pills, because at that time I hadn't really got into the pill part. I was more into like taking a Xanax and, drinking and smoking weed. But ironically, after they both died from pills, I started doing pills. And that's just my disease, sinking in. And it wasn't long before I lost control of it. And the only thing that mattered was the next high. And I wanted to stop, but I didn't want to do the work to stop. I didn't really know about recovery at that point. I just thought that was a point in my life where I was like, I'm always going to be a drug addict. I'm never going to stop using. I just need to manage my using better to where I don't suffer consequences. But I know like that that's not possible. And then the road of hell began, and I was only at the age then of 18.
So what happened that you decided to do something different?
Honestly, it took about like 10 years after that to really come to that. It took going to jail over 25 times. It took going to prison twice. The thing with my disease is when I'm in prison, I'm not using drugs, obviously. I mean, there are drugs, but I chose to not. And I was just more, going to school. I got my personal training degree in prison, and then working out. That was my thing. And if you gave me a lie detector test when I was in prison and you asked me, are you going to get high when you leave here? I would say no. And I would pass the lie detector test. But the problem is when I got out, I wasn't building a defense against my disease. So my disease is insidious. It just lies in waits for me. And when it knows it can use that against me, it will. And then once that happens, all bets are off. I have a disease that tells me I don't have a disease. So it's real easy for me to believe that until shit gets right in front of me, and then that's when it takes over. And that's exactly what happened. And that happened for a while. And I really don't know what the, like, I didn't ever saw the burning bush or this like magical moment where I just said, okay, like I'm done. It took me a lot of relapses to figure out, like, it's just that roller coaster of up and down where you're like, do I really want to go on this ride again? Knowing that the end of it is just going to be a crash and burn. And each time it gets worse. So I finally, I got a good sponsor. I got involved in a good sponsor family. We meet every first Friday of every month, and I'll go out to dinner. They have boatloads of clean time, so they can spot things in me that I can't spot in myself. And it's accountability, and then working the steps really is really what ties all that together for me. But like I said, it took a long time. I'm not a white chip wonder, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah. And now I'm doing the YouTube thing, and I'm really passionate about it because I know so many people. Like, why are we sending people that can't stop taking a painkiller to prison with somebody that can't stop killing someone? Like, those two shouldn't mesh, and there's no rehabilitation. I know plenty of people in there right now that I communicate with that, they don't have options when they get out. Like, some people are blessed with a good mom and a dad. Some people aren't. And I wasn't blessed with that. So I know the next person who's not blessed with that has a tough road ahead of them.
So your channel, how long have you been running it for?
Just under 3 months.
Nice.
A lot to learn.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. I've got to watch a couple episodes. So your passion for that is mainly to like reach youth and to like educate people.
Yeah, I want to tell the stories for the people that don't have a voice. I've been in that situation, and the corruption that goes on in there. Like I was saying before, there's, when I went to prison, all I learned how to do was, when I get out, oh, now I can try this crime, or this is the new drug that's on the street. So man, when I get out, maybe I'll try that. You know what I mean? There wasn't any, like, when you get there, there should be a goal in mind, especially if you have a release date. So you should go in and say, okay, this is what sent me here. Where I got to do A, B, C, and D to make sure that I don't do that exact same thing again. But what happens is, you get in there and you get caught up in the same bullshit that you have that's on the street. Because it is the street, but it's street without, for men, you can't get with a girl, or you can't drive, but it's basically like living on the street because there's everything in there that there is on the street. So I just want to help the people that don't have any help, and I want to speak out about it, because I feel like if nobody speaks out about it and everything just keeps going the way it's going, that's the reason why our recidivism rate is so high. Like, we should have drug treatment centers versus maximum security prisons for low-level drug offenders.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have that here in Georgia. Georgia is a pro recovery state. And I've seen some people who are trying to get that recovery movement in Florida as well, because I know you guys aren't really huge on like harm reduction or anything like that.
I don't think we're huge on anything but locking people up. I mean, really, as sad as that is to say, I'm in a reentry group with actually a federal defender, like a public defender would be for state. She's federal, and we meet every Saturday on a Zoom call to go over ideas for people getting out with nothing, or what to do, like how to incorporate virtual reality drug treatment into centers, into prisons, for them to be learning something and trying to change the mindset. When you're in there, it's out of sight, out of mind. So when there's not all those temptations, you really don't have options to go down those roads. And But I am also a big advocate of recovery because I know so many, like this year alone, I've lost so many friends due to fentanyl, due to, mixing drugs that had other drugs in them that were laced. I mean, the drugs now that are on the streets, it's playing Russian roulette. Like, you don't know what you're going to get. And it's just like, unless people, I don't know. I think for a long time, like I looked at recovery like, man, my life is over. This is not cool. Like, I'm just going to go to this meeting with all these old people. And that's how it started with me. You know what I mean? And now, like, recovery, like, you got to live recovery, but you also got to have fun, because when I'm not having fun, the drug looks a lot better. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
And
When
even
I
though I
came
know, go ahead.
when when I came into recovery, it was 8 days before my birthday, and I was like, lame birthdays from here on out. I will never have fun ever again.
I
But
know.
that's not the case. I mean, I've got such a if I even had a clue that I could have the life that I have now being in recovery, I would have came in a long time before, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely. That's the good part about it. And staying grateful is a big thing too, because it's so easy to get like, woe is me. And you kind of forget, what that last relapse was like. And the further you get away from it, the further, your memories get from how bad it was. And for me, I just have to keep that in my forefront of my mind, because it's crazy. The disease, it wants you dead, and then it tells you don't have a disease. And it's just it's dangerous now. And honestly, it scares me, and I don't want to go back to how my life was.
So tell us, okay, first tell everybody how they can find you to connect with you
So
and
you
your
can find me,
channel.
yeah, you can find me on YouTube. The channel name is DOC TV 813. You can find me on Instagram. I didn't even have an Instagram. I just made one, so I have like 60 followers. I don't know, but now I'm doing that. So you can find me on Instagram. It's the same thing as YouTube, DOC TV 813. You can find me on Facebook, which is Josh DOC TV. And I can link it in the comments.
Yes, yeah, I'll put it in the descriptions and everything so that
Okay.
people can find you and follow you. And okay, so what I want to ask you, my last question is, what can people do who want to make a difference, like what you're doing? Getting involved, being a voice for people who don't have one. What would you suggest?
I mean, obviously the social media thing seems to be really taken off. There's tons of things you can do. So if you know someone in recovery that's struggling, you can get somebody else with you and try to go talk to that person and help them. You can recommend treatment centers that you know of that produce solid recovery. You can also do the YouTube thing. And that, for me, like, I just created it and I've been getting so much feedback. Like, look, we're sitting here, like, it's crazy how it brings people together, and we're all in it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? And so if I can help one person out of, the amount of subscribers I have, or the people that follow me, or whatever the case is, then I know I'll sleep better at night. And I know that I didn't really, when I was trying to get clean and in recovery, I used to sit in my apartment withdrawing, trying to not go get another drug just to stop the sickness. And I would go down the wormhole on YouTube to try to kill time and watch different things. And I ran across this channel. It was called, I forget the name of it, but it was by Ryan Donnelly. He's like a really popular guy that started a YouTube back before, people were really getting into YouTube like that. And he had, every story, like how to get through opiate withdrawal at home with no money and low budget for food and all that stuff, or how to prepare for a withdrawal. And I always was like, man, like, this guy is really onto something, because for how many, I mean, I used to sit at home in the morning at like 8 o'clock in the morning high and just watch people like driving by my house going to work. And I was like, man, like, what am I doing? Like, that's what I should be doing. And there was never a path to go down to talk to about that other than a meeting. And meetings are awesome. And I go to meetings, but what about that person that doesn't want to go to a meeting, that just doesn't even really know about it, or they think it's like a cult or whatever people say about it? Like, for you to be able to turn on your phone and listen and watch somebody talk to you about the same thing that you're feeling right now is priceless. So like, the more we speak out, the more lives we touch, the better our recovery gets because of that, because we're helping the next person that's struggling. And we just keep reaching more and more and more. And hopefully, you know what, it turns into a trend like TikTok. And next thing you know, we could create a recovery app like TikTok where everyone just gets on it and talks about recovery stories. Like, so I just feel like, open your mouth, speak out, save someone else's life, and give back to them what was so freely given to you.
So much, Josh. That was great. Everybody, I will be putting his info so you can follow him. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. Okay. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Recovery Inspired Hope.